Ryuga Gotoku Eito Gaiden Pirates in Hawaii is an action-adventure beat-em-up kart racer rhythm naval combat strategy character action RPG hack and slash fashion designer rail shooter visual novel dating sim. I don't need to fucking explain this shit. You know what Like a Dragon is? It's a mahjong simulator. Legendary mahjong enthusiast Majima Goro is washed up on the beach of a small island village with amnesia. A young boy named Noah Rich stumbles upon Majima, who immediately pledges his life to Noah and promises to show him and his dad the fabled treasure of Esperanza. Then he puts on a hat and a coat and sets out to sea. First up, the combat. If you've played an RPG besides 7 or 8, you know what to expect, but Majima's revamped Mad Dog style has some new tricks. Namely ups, the first good charged standing heavy in the series, and a mix of fisticuffs with dagger swipes. The rush combo is taken from Zero's Thug style, but with a new 5th attack whose finisher launches enemies. After a launch, either from finisher 5 or an electric wind god fist, most buttons will launch Majima into the air for follow-up attacks which follow the same basic conventions as grounded combat. Light punches, heavy slashes, but grab launches a barrage of knives at the enemy boys. They're always men. There are a couple different outcomes to aerial combos, but overall I found them underwhelming, especially after how intently the marketing pushed the skill ceiling. But maybe I'm just stupid and incurious. I experimented a little bit, but I've never been good at labbing, especially in games without training rooms. I personally prefer just playing like Lost Judgment, launching enemies into ground combos. I installed the True Mad Dog mod, which added the looped rush combos that Thug style stole from Akiyama, so I could just wail on floating enemies until they died or jumped out of it, which felt pretty fun. But enemies tend to have tiny pools of health, even on hard mode, and bosses will just hop out of your juggles after a few hits, so even if I had the skill to pull off a cool combo, there's nothing in the game I could possibly use it on. All of Mad Dog's finishers transition into the same dagger combo, which might feel incomplete at first, but leads to a lot more consistency in their use, whereas in previous RGGs every finisher had its own effect that you could use to manage encounters. But honestly, with the addition of double and triple finishers, all of them's kinda started to blend together anyways, and frankly, I've never particularly enjoyed the Dynasty Warriors combo system. It works, and RGG has gotten a lot out of it, but unless I'm mashing out a string, I generally prefer my inputs to be non-contextual. Mad Dog is best suited against small groups, picking off weaklings with overwhelming speed so you can better open elite enemies to juggles, and small groups are exactly the kind of encounters you find in Hawaii, where Mad Dog is your default style. When you go out to sea, your default style becomes Sea Dog, featuring dual cutlasses, a grappling hook, and a fucking gun. Sea Dog's fuck huge hitboxes are designed special for the massive encounters that have come to Divine Dragon Engine RGGs. You can throw the cutlasses or charge the pistol to clean out clusters of enemies or grapple to close gaps for a more personal approach. I would say Sea Dog is the more traditional fighting style, with 5 unique trios of finishers and fewer aerials than Mad Dog, but it still feels very different from any other style in the series. Except maybe Agent I didn't play 7 Gaiden because it's too expensive. Sea Dog still has a couple aerials, but its emphasis is on ground combat. Your aerials are either direct follow-ups to another finisher or they instantly ground you. Naval combat feels really simple, and it is, but there is a bit of strategy to dig into with perfecting your crew formation or and installing a decent variety of weaponry. You've got a pair of machine guns and a set of cannons on the port and starboard faces. You can't get too granular, cannons only come in sets of 4 that cover either side, and guns only come in pairs, but there's enough choice to allow for some personal expression in your playstyle if you're into that shit, I guess. I had maxed out my ship by just around the halfway point of the story, besides the health upgrades with exponentially increasing costs and proportionally shrinking smidgens of health. And I had barely touched the fucking mountain of pirate combat that makes up the majority of available playtime. There were 2 full zones I hadn't unlocked yet, and a third that I was too scared to tackle. But naval combat is fast-paced and fun enough that even when you're fairly overpowered for a fight, you can still have fun zipping around enemy ships, getting your position just right to launch a volley without eating one yourself, or trying out different cannon combos. None of your kit can really interact with the other pieces. They all do their own thing, which is fine, but it'd add a lot to the naval combat if you could combine pieces of your kit for bonus damage or effects or something. Like freezing an enemy ship and melting it with fire, or something, I don't know, I'm not a game designer. There's also a ton of rocket launchers which look useful, but you have to step away from the helm, which leaves you a sitting duck in a firefight. It's frankly just not as much fun as actually pirating the ship. More important than the ship is the crew, which you'll fill out with all sorts of freaks and losers across the mainland and the pirate city of Madlantis. Your crew will back you up both in proper ship-to-ship combat and in boarding battles, both of which use their own sets of crewmates. The minutiae of crew management is really shallow. Each member has a mood meter, but I had to lose the same battle like 6 times in a row for a crew member to get upset enough that it affects their stats. Each crewmate will have an obvious use. There are only 4 stats that come in pairs. Attack and defense for man-to-man combat, and repair and cannon power for ship-to-ship combat. Eventually, your crew will begin to overpower you in boarding fights. By the end, there were a few encounters I just couldn't engage with because my crew handled it with too great of ease and I was too great of a leader. But the real fun comes from unlocking them through sub-stories and minigames. You know, classic Yakuza shit. You know the deal here, baseball, golf, mahjong, casino. Please let me join your crew. Please protect my father. Pirate Yakuza breaks the mold in many ways, but this is not one of them, for better and for worse. There's a decent mix of old and new ideas, but after like 15 games of this shit, it all kind of forms into a big orb in my mind, like the brown Play-Doh you get from mixing all the colors together. With the exception of the dating side stories, which I was surprised to find myself thoroughly enjoying. Their finale was a blast to watch. If you plan on tackling the pirate stuff in earnest, I highly recommend acquainting yourself with these 5 conventionally attractive Japanese women because the rewards for completion are substantial. The story's not bad. What you see at the beginning is basically what you get. There are a couple twists and turns, but at this point I don't really enjoy RPG plots for the story. I prefer the character interactions which Pirate Yakuza delivers on. There aren't as many party talks as in 7 or especially 8, but there's still a good number of them, and the reward for completing them for each crewmate is huge. The friend simulator aspects have really put a lot of work into recent Yakuza games, and I hope the trend continues. Everyone's already said this, and I'm not even 30, but it really is nice to see stories about adult men starting new lives and making friends. Like a Dragon has the ability to capture the magic unique to adulthood that a lot of other media forgoes in favor of coming-of-age stories, or wallowing in miserable responsibility. If you're a kid watching this and you hear everyone talk about how horrible adulthood is and you want to hurt yourself or whatever, just know this. Being an adult is fucking awesome, for every reason portrayed in Like a Dragon, short of beating the shit out of hunky men. That one's up to you. The new life aspect isn't really as strong as 7 or 8, but it's still there. They really could have targeted the theme if they wanted to with the Amnesia storyline and the dress-up game, but besides being a little nicer, Captain Majima isn't all that different from regular Majima. The one thing I appreciated most about the story is that every once in a while, all the characters will look at the screen and go, I'm the bad guy, and I don't want to be a good guy, and I'm selfish and greedy. The relationship between Majima and Noah was pretty nice. I always appreciated the juxtaposition of traditional masculinity with non-traditional fatherhood that kinda got lost in the middle era of RGG games. But Noah's dad is there. You kick his ass so he navigates for your ship, but his navigation skills begin and end at... It's raining right now. The fatherhood aspect isn't really there. Majima is just kind of a cool uncle who lets Noah swear cusses. It's fairly shallow overall, but the plot serves its purpose, and it never gets grating to sit through. I appreciate the revelry and absurdity Pirate Yakuza put to the forefront of the Like a Dragon formula. Almost every Yakuza has some stupid over-the-line segments that break reality that have come to define the series, and Pirate Yakuza is in love with that shit. When your starting point is piracy is alive and well in the Pacific Ocean, you need to do a lot to impress the player with some over-the-top goofy shit, and the game will just keep throwing more and more at you, big and small. Honestly, I don't really know who this video is for. If you're a fan of Like a Dragon, you've probably already played it. If you're not, then this isn't a great starting place. But if you saw a pirate game, and you saw the ups, and you instantly thought this is literally just Assassin's Creed 4 combined with Devil May Cry 2, which are both the best games ever, then yeah, you might as well give it a shot. The story doesn't require you to know anything about the previous games, but there are a fuck ton of little callbacks that add up over the runtime, and you just won't get any of them. Isn't that so sad? I guess they have to play the preceding 10 games in the main series first. I give Pirate Yakuza a 1 out of 10 for every time receive you played.